US President Donald Trump met with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Army Chief Asim Munir in the Oval Office. This meeting, which was also attended by the US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, comes as both sides now look to discuss the bilateral ties between United States and Pakistan. Trade, regional security and wider global issues were also up for discussion. The meeting follows a trade deal between the US and Pakistan and comes shortly after the leaders briefly met at the UNGA in New York. That was another interesting meeting, even though that was a multilateral meet between the Arab leaders, the US President and of course the Pakistan Prime Minister as well. Top sources have now revealed to CNN News 18 that top Pak US leadership discussed several issues, right from strategic partnerships to economic cooperation. US also showed interest in Pakistan's rare earth minerals, crypto mining and oil exploration as well. It comes as US President Trump has announced a 100% tariff on branded and patented pharmaceutical products starting 1st of October. This move comes amid ongoing trade negotiations between the US and India. Indian drug makers, major suppliers of generics to the US, are likely to be impacted as India exports almost a third of the US drugs. That amounts to $8.73 billion worth of drugs to the US annually. Apart from this, Trump also introduced new tariffs on other sectors, 25% on heavy trucks, 50% on kitchen cabinets and bathroom vanities, 30% on furniture. I would like to establish that as far as the impact on Indian drug makers is concerned, the ones which are contributing to the generic drugs, is not going to be as much. They will be able to mitigate it, is the word coming in. But I must tell you that Indian pharma stocks have nosedived today. With these developments, how should India see the new DC Islamabad Rawalpindi tango? Meanwhile, the MEA has made it clear that it is monitoring the developments, underlining that there will be no third-party mediation when it comes to India-Pakistan issues. Listen in to what the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Shri Ranbir Jaiswal had to say.
Meetings that you talked about between the US President and other dignitaries, we've taken note of those meetings. जहाँ तक मध्यस्थता की बात है, वहाँ भी तीसरे किसी भी पक्ष की द्विपक्षीय मुद्दों पे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच में द्विपक्षीय जो मुद्दे हैं, उसमें कोई जगह नहीं है तीसरे पक्षों का.
All right, let me introduce my esteemed guests. Anand Ranganathan, of course, continues to stay with us. I'm also joined in by Ambassador Kamal Sibal, who is a former Foreign Secretary of India. Many thanks to you, Ambassador. Good to see you on the show. Ambassador Sibal, I want to bring you in on this triad of sorts that we are seeing. How is one to expect a balancing act from the United States when it comes to India and Pakistan?
Well, it is clear that Trump is hitting at India at what he thinks are all our vulnerable points. He has attacked us on trade, imposing 50% tariffs on us. He knows that we have a strong relationship with Russia, so he wants to create a rift between us and Russia by forcing us to reduce our oil supplies from Russia. And this is the refrain of everyone in the US administration. It's a very single-minded pursuit of this objective. And now, when it comes to Pakistan, this is an old story. If you remember when Imran Khan had gone to United States and met Trump during his first term, he had suddenly talked about his interest in mediating in Kashmir. And of course, Imran Khan jumped at it and encouraged him in that thinking. Now that he's come back in his second term with hugely renewed self-confidence, that he can do what he wants.
Right.
He has therefore started rebuilding ties with Pakistan. Initially, as you know, he suggested even a mediation, which was ruled out, and now we just played a clip from our spokesperson who has rejected this mediation idea again. But it's very clear that he wants to rehabilitate Pakistan. He wants to boost Pakistan's regional status. He knows very well that this is going to cause concern in India. He knows that very well. But he wants now to establish a new balance between India and Pakistan. And this will be more of a regional balance, not necessarily India-Pakistan, by promoting this defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, so that the Pakistan's role becomes much more important in the regional context and goes beyond this Indian subcontinent. And this gives Pakistan great confidence and a great boost in terms of, I think, their inveterate hostility towards India.
Sure.
And they'll continue with it. So it's a very dangerous road that Trump is traveling, knowing the background of Asim Munir and Pakistan's involvement in terrorism against India, but it doesn't seem
You've
to have
raised a very critical point over here, which I quickly want to also take forward with Shalini Chawla, who's a distinguished fellow at the Center for Air Pass Studies. Thank you, Shalini, for joining in. It's interesting that Ambassador Sibal also highlighted the pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Not to forget that the first meeting between Shehbaz Sharif and the US President happened on the sidelines of UNGA when the Arab leaders were meeting with the US President. What describes this remarkable pivot, not just towards Pakistan, but all of Middle East, which is now commanding the shots, especially when it comes to Hamas or Gaza?
No, thank you, Akansha. Yes, there is a major shift that we have seen with Trump coming in, and I see it more as a Trump shift to Pakistan than the overall US shift, because he has defined totally this shift. And if you see, Pakistan has played its cards very well here, because since March, they were very step by step, they were inculcating those ties with Pakistan, with the United States, the rare earth minerals, then Sharifullah being handed over, then, praising Trump for the ceasefire and his role in India-Pakistan crisis. So we have seen that approach, and with respect to United States, yes, it has been a massage on Trump's ego for sure, which he hasn't got from India, and also their interest, which is driving the crypto deal, where Trump has the family has a high stake, the rare earth mineral, and also I think Pakistan's strategic relevance somewhere has been revived in their mind, seeing that their interest in the Bagram air base in Afghanistan, which has been Trump has been interested. Also, there's somewhere Pakistan has positioned itself as its utility in the counter-terrorism overall. And then you see the Iranian dimension here, which has also been very critical motivator for Trump in what is happening right now in the Middle East, and how it's, and the defense pact which has been signed. You can truly, one could argue and interpret very comfortably that how there could have been a US role in this whole pact, and how I feel that Pakistan will be able to drive now the Saudi front to buy the US equipment.
No, the directions are all indicating that there is a US role, because given the way he has welcomed the Arab leaders also, and the whole pivot towards Middle East yet again. But having said that, I want to quickly bring in Anand on that note. When it comes to India, how should India now be looking at this, given that just today Mr. Ranveer Jaiswal has made it amply clear that there is no scope when it comes to any third-party mediation, and we have been time and again saying this, but what does this mean for India at the moment with US making those fresh overtures? And yes, we know that there's this love-hate relationship that the US has with Pakistan, given that military exercises had stopped when the previous US president was there. They want to resume it again, as has been requested by Asim Munir this time around to the US president. But what does it make of the US president's own hypocrisy when it comes to Pakistan? He was the one during his previous presidency who referred to Pakistan as a safe haven for terrorists who are conning America. And today you see them being hosted in the White House. Asim Munir being hosted to a lunch in the White House in the earlier meet, which is unprecedented for any military personnel in the White House.
So, a couple of points. I trust Trump as much as I would trust Dracula to keep his mouth shut at a blood donation camp. It's as simple as that. Of course, if you remember a century ago, Kim, a very famous novel, talked about the great game. And that at that point of time, that great game was being played by Britain and France and Russia, of course. Soviet Union hadn't formed till that point of time, to control the world. And Trump still believes in that great game. He still believes that he can use India and Pakistan, hyphenate them, and then use them as pawns. I mean, he is gravely mistaken. He can drill as much as he wants in Pakistan, we will keep on buying as much Russian oil as we want. In fact, we've increased after the ad valorem tariffs were slapped on us for buying Russian oil. This month, Kanksha, we've increased the import of Russian oil. So, in our mind, we've stood up to the bullying.
And we are selling it. And we are selling it to Ukraine.
To America as well, in fact. We are refining Russian oil and are selling it worth $1 billion to America. So much for hypocrisy. But I want to come at the larger point, because you also mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, about pharmaceutical. Now, that is, if I may speak for 30 seconds on that,
Sure.
Akanksha, or is that a different?
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I think that's more important, because that doesn't delve into the hypocrisy of slapping tariffs. This is something that is going to hurt America, because common sense tells you that if, and India supplies 40% of American generic drugs, common sense tells you that if the quality of Indian drugs is the same as drugs that are made by Americans in America, Americans are going to buy Indian drugs because they are going to be cheaper, because our wages are 10 times cheaper. That is how economics works. That is the so-called middle income economy trap or high income economy trap. Americans can't get away from it. So the fact that he's now slapped whatever percent of tariffs that are going to affect Indian pharma exports by 20 to 30%, it's going to increase the amount ordinary poor Americans spend on buying drugs. And 90% of the prescription drugs in America are generics. It's going to increase it by about $70 to $150 per family. So Americans are going to be hurt by it. So Indians should not bother about it. This is nothing to do with India at all. This is to do with Trump, decapitating his own self.
Okay, Ambassador Sibal, I want to quickly bring you in on something that the late Henry Kissinger had said. He said that for the United States, there are no friends, there are no foes, they only have interest. And perhaps, I hope you agree that Donald Trump is living Henry Kissinger's dream. That's the kind of hypocrisy he has displayed. Just to take you or draw your attention, it's India which, according to the United States, is funding Vladimir Putin's war chest, but it's okay to host terror perpetrators of the Pahalgam attack, not just the Prime Minister, but also the army leadership, and we all know what the role has been of the leadership over there when it comes to the terror camps. I'd like your thoughts.
Well, I think we have now so often criticized the West and United States in particular for double standards and hypocrisy. But this hasn't changed one bit how America conducts its foreign
Draw
policy.
my attention if we have displayed any kind of hypocrisy over here.
No, in the sense that I was saying that the Americans are being hypocritical is neither here nor there, because they are hypocritical.
So dealing with Russia is anathema, but hosting terror perpetrators, that too of a country which you call as a strategic ally, is that justified?
No, the dynamics of the two situations are entirely different. He wants to look. The root causes of the Ukraine conflict is in U.S. a decision to expand NATO. We won't go into that story. It's a long story. And then they found that they've not been able, despite the cavalcade of sanctions that they imposed on Russia, that they've not been able to break Russia's will, and Russia has been gaining ground. And everybody agreed that they will ultimately secure what their interests, as they see what their interests are. Now, Trump has seen the writing on the wall, so he wants to withdraw from this conflict and look at the economic part of the relationship. That's why the man in charge is a businessman. He's not a geopolitician. He's not a national security expert. He's Steve Witkoff. He's the guy who did real estate business together. They did real estate business together in New York. So they're looking at a very different they have a very different set of priorities. And that's why Russia has been tempting them that you can come back into a oil sector, mineral sector. In fact, when we want to develop our oil fields in the Arctic, and America has very good technology in that regard, so he wants to tempt them with that. And Trump, if he can get an opportunity, he would take it. Now, with regard to Pakistan, I don't know what his mind is, because as I said, when I said in his last incarnation, he wanted to mediate between India and Pakistan. So at that time, India was not buying any oil from Russia. There was not that question of this.
So, I've also met some analysts who have said that if Asim Munir could offer him that pleasure of being nominated or opining that he should be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize only because he mediated, why couldn't India offer him that joy?
Absolutely ridiculous and thoughtless line of a view, frankly. I've heard that too. I mean, we demean ourselves. On the one hand, we say that he had no role in the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And I understand that when our Prime Minister spoke to him for 35 minutes when he was in Canada, he explained to him in detail how the whole thing went. And he effectively told him that you had no role to play, despite that 40 times he has said that he had a role to play. And then, if he had taken the position he had no role to play, and then we say we nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize? I mean, it's ridiculous. Don't we have any self-respect?
Okay.
How can we be dishonest to this degree just
I'll
to
give you closing thoughts, Anna.
with Trump? No, I think there are people like that who are saying they in fact want to put the blame on India for not handling him well.
They're calling it a foreign policy failure, and I'm sure you will hear it from the political circles as well in the opposition. But I'm not going to waste time over that. And thank you for putting that into perspective. Ambassador, couldn't have had anybody else put that into perspective better than you. Shalini Chawla, quickly, the other country which is going to be watching and observing very closely this kind of dual romance that Pakistan is trying to do between United States and China, which they refer to as their ironclad ally. How do you think this is going to go down with China? I do believe that this is going to be the next flashpoint in the US-China tensions.
Akansha, China right now, you have seen from the beginning, it has never objected to Pakistan-US alliance. We have seen the alliance coming thrice, and since then, Chinese and Pakistan alliance started from 1965, 63 onwards, in fact. And we had 80s, we have seen post 9/11. And right now, at the moment...
But right now, don't you think that the deals as far as returning to Afghanistan, Bagram, this is also going to be a potential threat to their own strategic interests as far as CPEC is concerned? Okay, they may not care about rare earth minerals, they have plenty of their own, but crypto, say CPEC, all of these interests are also going to challenge their own strategic presence in Afghanistan that they are establishing.
Akansha, if rare earth minerals were actually, this was the reality in Pakistan, China would have been the first one to use it, and they haven't used it. But as of now, I think the Chinese somewhere see this whole situation serving their own interest. Because if, through this relationship, Pakistanis get financially comfortable, this is something which will help the Chinese. So right now, I don't see that turf coming in. But yes, eventually, there might be some issues if this grows beyond that. And also, if the US equipment comes here, then Chinese might be a beneficiary of
which it will, believe me, it will. If this military strategic alliance sort of goes forward, it will. Quickly, closing thoughts to Anand Ranganathan.
No, Kawalji is absolutely right. We've got Dr. Jaishankar, and Trump has got a property builder. But, on one aspect, I disagree with Kawalji that India should have nominated Trump for a Nobel Prize, not for peace, but for physiology and medicine. How on earth is a man able to walk and talk and be alive without a brain?
All right, so I'd like to now end that discussion with this, but we do hope that this has no impact as far as our own trade negotiations are concerned. India is playing very pragmatic, also holding on to their ground. We do hope this will now lead to some kind of a concrete first tranche, at least as far as the BTA is concerned. But many thanks to you, both gentlemen, and Shalini for joining in on The Right Stand. It was a pleasure having this discussion. With that, we're slipping into a quick break. Stay tuned to The Right Stand as we return with more.